It just feels amazing to overcome anxiety, but most people will never, ever feel this way. They will never spend the 3 weeks to a month really exposing themselves to that particular trigger, to actually stressing themselves a little bit in order to go beyond the anxiety, to see that the world is not a dangerous place. You have to understand that most anxieties, most of them, I'm not telling you that every one of them, but most of them can be cured by just exposing yourself slowly and repeatedly a few times a day to the stress that you are feeling, to the anxiety, even if it is just standing there. You want to do something, but you freeze in your anxiety. Instead of running away, just stand a few more seconds. And then the next day, you can stand a few more seconds. And before you know it, you can stand there just for a few minutes. And your brain, because you are putting yourself out there and you are really putting yourself into that situation, will say, okay, nothing happened, nothing will happen. Let's try a bit more. And the more you push through it, the more easy it gets to get over your anxieties. You have to understand that you have to do repeated actions towards that. But you see, the first time you do it, it might take a year or two, depending on how bad your anxiety is. But as soon as you do it the first time, that time will be half of it. If it was 2 years, now it's going to be a year. And then after you do it, and it's going to be a year, then it's 6 months, then it's 3 months, then it's 1.5 months, and so on and so forth, until it's 3 weeks. Now it took me 3 weeks to actually socialize, to actually get over my anxieties to socialize. One of the most big anxieties that people have, the biggest anxieties that people have, just talking to strangers. That's really, really a big anxiety of most people. And I got over it. But I was fortunate to not know that I had anxiety about those things. And to actually have some people tell me that it gets better the more you do it. And then I developed some strategies to actually start getting myself into those situations. But just 2 weeks ago, I went home. I went out, I paralyzed myself because of anxiety, and I just went home. 5 minutes later, I just went in the bar. There was a Charleston party, and I just called an Uber back. I just froze. I called an Uber back, and that was me 2.5 weeks ago. And last night, I talked with about 50 people. Just small talk. It doesn't matter. But that's the point. From paralyzing anxiety to actually having 50 interactions in one night. And some of them were not good. They were actually bad. Some of them were like, what do you want? You know? But it didn't matter because it doesn't matter. It's the only thing that mattered is that I got over that anxiety. And the point is that you can do it as well, no matter what anxiety you have, no matter what situations you find yourself freezing in. But the first time I did this, it actually took me maybe a year and a half to actually get to where I am now in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, just about 3 weeks. Tomorrow is going to be 3 weeks since I started to get a goal to socialize. I took a sabbatical year from dating and socializing. And yeah, it is something that you can overcome. And if you think that it is impossible, you have to understand that it is because you do not celebrate the seconds. You do not celebrate the small wins. You have to understand that the first nights I would talk to anybody, would just talk to absolutely anyone, no matter who they were. If I had one interaction with the bartender, with whoever, it didn't matter. If I just said hi to someone, just passing by, even though I didn't feel like it, that was it. I did it anyway, and I celebrated it because it wasn't as bad as going home full of anxiety. But you see, I got a trick up my sleeve as well, because in the Uber, I talked with the Uber driver. So you see, that was great. And I started to do that more and more and more. Of course, anxiety was last night as well. But instead of trying to talk with the people that I want, I started to talk with the people that were around me and I felt comfortable talking to. And then slowly, as the night progressed, I started talking to other people who were more intimidating. And I didn't feel any more anxiety because my brain was like, I talked to all these people. I'm going to go talk to this other person, and it's not going to be as bad. It's going to be okay. And the more I did it, the easier it got. And by the end of the night, I was talking to people who were intimidating, but it was fine. I didn't feel any more anxiety. It was just great to talk to these people, to have a little bit of just interaction, even though it didn't lead anywhere. I didn't want it to lead anywhere. I just wanted to get myself social and to get myself talking to so many other people, to just get myself into that good feeling of socializing. You might think that if you are an introvert, you don't get energy from that, but you will. At some point, you will turn it on. You will just become an ambivert. It is learnable behavior. If you do it thousands of times, unfortunately, that's what it takes. Thousands of times until it becomes part of you. And you slowly start to remember all of these situations, the good ones and the bad ones. It doesn't matter. Because you see, when something bad happens to you, if you survive, your mind is going to tell you it wasn't that bad, no matter what it is. Of course, if you get injured or you get other things, but I got punched just for doing absolutely nothing, for saying hi, just randomly. The friends were drunk and a guy just punched me. Not last night, but in the past. So yeah, that can happen. You can get screamed at, a lot of things. But then again, that's 1 in 1,000 or less than 1 in 1,000. But if you let that be your default, you let that idea be more than 1 in 1,000 or 1 in 2,000 situations, if you let that situation dictate what behavior you have, that's just illogical. And unfortunately, anxieties are illogical. Anxieties are completely illogical. But you have to understand that you can expose yourselves to the triggers so much so that you get over them, that you overcome them. And no matter what it is, I felt anxiety. I didn't know it was anxiety about starting a business. And then I did it. I quit my job and I started a business. And shit hit the fan. I wasn't able to start a business. It took me so much time to actually understand how to make money, how to sell, how to make it on my own. And then I felt more anxiety when I tried to start another business. And this last business that I had, which is the ninth or 10th business that I'm starting, it's bleeding money. And I started it and I'm feeling anxiety about it. And I felt anxiety for 1.5 years, almost 2 years before I even started it. I worked on it. I was tinkering with it. I was trying to make it perfect. Until one day when I said, screw it, I'm going to post it. And I did. I started it completely. No more planning, no more work on it, no more nothing. I just did it. And it forced me. I felt really bad for a few days, but then I felt some relief. I was like, okay, nothing happened. I'm okay with failure. I'm okay with everything, you know? And it is still bleeding money. But at the same time, I'm seeing a path forward. I'm seeing how I can succeed. I'm seeing the future a little bit. And it's pointing in the right direction. Maybe not 100%, but it's pointing in the right direction 20, 30%. You have to understand that that's how it works. That anxiety that I had 3 weeks ago was crippling, so much so that I went home and I was feeling bad and I almost cried. Almost. I didn't cry because I knew that I took that decision. I promised myself that no matter what, tomorrow I'm going to stay a little bit more. Instead of staying like 2 minutes in that, not even 2 minutes, about 30 seconds, I stayed in that anxiety. I said, tomorrow I'm going to stay 2 minutes or 1 minute or whatever it is. I'm not going to go back home as fast as I did, or I'm going to change from one bar to another bar and stay a little bit more in that anxiety. I'm going to talk to the bartender. I'm going to talk to the Uber. I'm going to talk to whoever I can. Doesn't matter. And yeah, the second night I actually talked with 2 or 3 people and it was fine. And then I took a little bit of a break because I didn't find any other parties. And now, well, I went out a bit more, but slowly but surely, from 10 seconds of saying hi, and then I do it on the street as well. Started talking with old people on the street, just saying hi, telling them that it's a beautiful day and things like that. Slowly getting myself social, slowly facing my anxiety and celebrating all these moments, all of these situations, no matter how bad or how good they are. Most people just ignore you, so it's fine. That ignorance is actually good. But you have to understand that anxiety can be overcome. Usually it's the hardest the first time because you have to go the furthest. But you see, once you overcome it 10 times, 20 times, 30 times in your lifetime, the distance is the same, but you're just going faster. You don't have to do it for a few seconds. You can do it for minutes. You can expose yourself more and more to that trigger, to that thing that is really holding you back and making you freeze. And that's how you get over anxiety. It doesn't have to be more complicated than this. Just expose yourself to the trigger that's making you freeze more and more and celebrate every little small win. You can have a timer on your phone and really set the timer. If it's 1 second more, always celebrate it, no matter what. And even if it is equal to yesterday, you can still celebrate it. Or even if it's less, because it has a cumulative effect. You have to understand that sometimes anxiety wins. But if you did a little bit, just a tiny bit, that counts as well. You told your brain, I want to do this. I'm going to expose myself to this. No matter what, I'm going to do it. Don't push yourself too hard. Just try to ease into it. Just try to not shock your system. Just ease into it, you know? It's much easier to do it that way than to just shock your system. Of course, if you really want to get over anxiety very, very fast, you can still shock yourself. It helps. I did that in the past. It really helps. It gives you a rush of energy. But then again, it's not that sustainable, you know? It's not really that. You don't always have that fortitude, that courage to just go and start doing that thing instantly. It helps a lot if you can do it. Like there were some nights where I was feeling anxiety and I knew that if I didn't just plow through it for the first 5 minutes, that's all it took. 5 minutes. I just plow through the anxiety and do, no matter what, just do the thing faster and faster. Just continue on plowing through the anxiety. In 5 minutes, I would not feel any anxiety. I knew that that was really how it worked. Because if I showed my brain proof that nothing happens, that really nothing really happens that bad, then my brain is going to let me do that thing. That's the problem. Because your brain has so many unknowns. It's not the fact that you have definitive proof that that thing which creates anxiety in you is bad. It is not that. It is the unknown that freezes you. It is the unknown that creates the most fear and the most anxiety. And if you uncover all of the unknowns slowly but surely, you will not feel that anxiety anymore. Sure, if you take a break, you're going to feel it. But then again, it's easier and easier and easier to get back on the horse, to get back into this feeling of no anxiety. Even if it takes 3 weeks, a month, 2 months, 6 months, it just becomes easier and easier the more you overcome it. And understand that the third step is to not really take breaks. I know it's hard, but try not to take breaks because it goes back to the beginning sometimes. Your brain will tell you, look, we haven't done this in a few days. We haven't done this in a few weeks. Try not to take a break. Understand that that's so important. If you want to change your brain, your neurochemistry, it comes down to as many repetitions as you can in a lot of days in a row to just build inertia, to build momentum. You have to understand that once you go into the thousands of repetitions, this is really part of you and you can access it super easy with just maybe a week or 2 or 3, depending on the break or the mood that you are in, depending on the situation that you are in, you're going to be able to do it no matter what. It's going to be like riding a bike. Of course, it's going to be a bit more complicated because you're going to have to remember more than just pedal and steer. You're going to have to do a bit more than that. But you're going to slowly remember all of the things if you actually go into the thousands of repetitions. But most people get over the anxiety the first time and they never go beyond the anxiety. They never go beyond so that they coast, so that they have so much more than just zero anxiety. They have the pleasure of actually doing that activity, which makes them fearful. You have to understand that that's what it takes. You have to go so far beyond that when you come back to the anxiety, it just feels so easy to get over it. Of course, it's going to win sometimes. You're going to go home with an Uber after 2 minutes or 30 seconds. But those 30 seconds are important. Those 30 seconds were the most important 30 seconds in the last 3 weeks of getting over anxiety.